history, periods have held a great amount of stigma and taboo, but there are a few cultures who seek to honor women while they're on their periods. An example of this is the Yurok, which is a native tribe on the northwest coast of the United States. This tribe had a group of aristocratic women who saw their periods as a time to purify themselves. When the group had their periods at the same time each month, they did a series of rituals during the cycle and said that this period was their most heightened spiritual experience. Another example is in the Ulithi women of the South Pacific, where they combine breastfeeding women and menstruating women into a hut and make the occasion into a sort of party.
In countries that have false beliefs and taboos about periods, there is little education about the menstrual cycle, and this is what causes menstruators around the world to face so many difficulties during their period. In Venezuela, women must sleep in huts during their period. In rural Ghana, women are not supposed to cook food. And in India, women are not allowed to enter temples and participate in religious events. In many countries, women don't have access to menstrual hygiene products, which leads many girls to miss school. Because of the lack of menstrual education in these countries, the period is seen as a weakness instead of a perfectly normal biological process.
We need to destigmatize periods because it's a necessary biological function experienced by half of the population. There are about 5,000 slang words in 10 different languages referring to menstruation that cause a larger trend of taboo and make them seem shameful across the world. And due to the taboos and stigmas around the world, there's a lack of significant health education resources, and it's this lack of education that causes myths that ostracize women and feel bad for having their periods. And that includes missing school, being forced to sleep in huts, and more. And this is why it's important to destigmatize periods, both for the safety of women and for the spread of accurate information around the world.
Period art is created by collecting the menstrual blood and using it to paint on some sort of canvas. Period art can also, however, refer to any art created while on your period.
So period syncing is when basically your period cycle aligns with another person's that you spend a lot of time with. So basically there is no scientific evidence that supports period syncing. And it's not officially scientifically proven, but there has been experiences where people have had periods at the same time and they've been together for a while. So yeah, it's not scientifically proven, but it has happened to people. So.
Menstrual cramps are most likely caused by an excess of prostaglandins, which are hormone-like compounds that are released from the uterine lining as it prepares to be shed. The role of prostaglandins is to help the uterus contract and relax so that the uterine lining can detach and flow out of your body. They are a necessary part of the process, but when they are in excess, they can cause pain. For most people with period cramps, it's still unknown what predisposes them to painful menstruation, while others don't experience it at all. Some causes of period cramps can be medical conditions such as endometriosis or pelvic inflammatory disease. Factors that are associated with painful periods include if you bleed heavily during periods, if you started menstruating early in life, if your periods are irregular or long, or if you're younger than 30.
Okay, so it's bad because it makes people who have periods feel ashamed for having a period. And it makes them feel like that part about them is something weird or something to be embarrassed about, which they shouldn't be because it's something natural. And you probably wouldn't want your mom or your sister or your friend to feel embarrassed or feel like that they're a weird person just because they go through this process that's so natural and so human to go through. If you still can't really understand the effects of saying something like that, imagine what it would be like for someone to tell you that something natural about you, like your face or your hair, is something disgusting. And not one person, but an entire group of people constantly telling you that. And you can probably imagine the effects that would have on your mentality and your self-worth and your perception of yourself. I know also that some people say that it's not periods specifically that are gross, but anything relating to private parts. But the fact is that it's more acceptable, socially acceptable, to say, I need to go pee or I need to go poo, instead of something like I need to change my pad. And the reason for that difference is because people say things like periods are gross. So if you are someone that has said that before or who believes that, I don't think you're a bad person, but I think that mindset is very harmful and damaging. So if you believe and you want to create a society where people with and without periods are viewed and treated and valued equally, then I would reconsider whether you really think periods are disgusting or gross, and if you should really be saying that out loud to other people.
The myth surrounding the lunar cycle basically says that you should start ovulating around a full moon and get your period around the new moon. But according to a study done by a tracking app that collected data on 7.5 million menstrual cycles, there is no real correlation between the lunar cycle and most menstrual cycles. However, the lunar cycle lasts as long as the average menstrual cycle, so they may line up for some people.
A healthy period color varies from bright red, dark brown, or black. If the color is orange or gray, it may be an indication of an infection. Healthy consistency for a period also varies, and doctors say it's an in-between of thick and thin. However, significantly large blood clots or thinner discharge may be an indication of a health issue.
So it definitely is proven and true that periods can negatively affect a woman's mood and their health overall. In a study conducted by Dr. Gillian Einstein, who is the director of UT's collaborative program in women's health, he states there's so much more cultural baggage around women's menstrual cycles and entire industries built around the idea that women are moody, irrational, even unstable in the phase leading up to menstruation. While this is very true, it is common for women to take these symptoms for granted. In places such as India and China, you don't hear many complaints about these effects that periods can have on women's mood, but on a global scale, it is still very, very common to hear these constant complaints that periods can have on women, as it is scientifically proven to be true. The premenstruational syndrome, which is basically the symptoms and effects that women not complain about, but experience, I guess, is what affects a high percentage of women of childbearing age on a global scale, with many women feeling mood changes in the days before menstruation, and by this it means the days leading up to the actual period. Hormonal changes in the menstrual cycle, like fluctuations in estrogen and pre-estrogen levels, are what affect the mood of women and trigger negative emotions such as anger, irritability, and an unstable mindset. The CIHR-funded Mood in Daily Life, which is the MIDL study, examined the extent to which women's daily moods are influenced by their menstrual cycles and by reproductive hormones. It is also proven that culturally held beliefs about PMS seem to have influenced both women's and researchers' expectations of the premenstrual phase, but as new research is being developed and as scientists and researchers are starting to find out more about the women's bodies and starting to debunk the existence of negative mood caused by PMS in the general female population.